today's video where we will be discussing and rating The Emperor's New Groove.
Right, The Emperor's New Groove is probably the first film we've done so far, which is quite impressive because we've had quite a few, that I'm watching it kind of for the first time as a reviewer, for this YouTube series. So I'm going into it, watching it, and thinking of my review ahead. And it's kind of an interesting frame of mind to put it in. No, that's a lie. Rescuers Down Under, but because there was an original Rescuers movie, I kind of knew what I was getting in for. Whereas with Emperor's New Groove, I actually knew nothing about it other than the fact the main character was a llama. No, I even thought the llama was the sidekick, but he's actually the main character.
Yeah, I've watched it once before. Again, as an adult, I watched it at uni.
Yeah.
Yeah, just completely missed out on this one as a kid. So the story centers around an emperor called Cusco, who fires his advisor Yzma.
Yeah.
Who's the villain of this piece. She then decides to try and kill him, but Kronk, who is her dim-witted sidekick, accidentally turns Cusco into a talking llama. He then has to seek help of a peasant called Pacha and his family to return to the palace and eventually become human again.
Yeah, but the problem is he annoyed Pacha at the start of the film by saying he was going to destroy his village for a summer home. So Pacha doesn't particularly want to help him, but because he's such a nice bloke, because he's played by John Goodman, and John Goodman only plays nice as people. That's a lie, he's played some great villains, but he's just like, something about John Goodman's voice, you're just like, I trust that man. Yeah. So he was a good casting choice there. Emperor's New Groove is... My problem with Emperor's New Groove is I'm not a fan of the main character.
Of Cusco?
No, don't like Cusco.
That's fair. I think as a child he's funny, and obviously, well, not as a child himself, but when you were watching it as a child, and also it's a talking llama, so that's hilarious to kids.
Yeah, I kind of felt that it's David Spade? David Spade who plays him, and I kind of feel like David Spade was like, right, watch what Robin Williams did with the genie, what Eddie Murphy did with Mushu, we'll do that, but you're the main character this time. And when the film starts and it's just this nasty emperor and he's kind of like telling his own story with that genie style, it felt very much like this is a film about me. And I think that helps you understand that actually the main character isn't a good character.
Yeah.
And the whole film's about him becoming a good character.
It's a redemption arc story.
Yeah, but I just felt it was maybe... I didn't like that the main character... Like, the best thing about Mushu and kind of Genie is that they weren't always in your face.
They also weren't inherently flawed characters. Genie wasn't.
Okay, I agree. They were decent characters. So, like, kind of... Could you imagine if you didn't like Genie, but it was still Robin Williams all up in your face? That's kind of what Emperor's New Groove's biggest problem is for me. Like
Mushu does some dodgy things, but he's not selfish.
Yeah, he's kind of, he's just flawed. Yeah, that's probably what's going to make Emperor's New Groove not that good in the review section for me.
I liked it the first time I watched it, but on a rewatch, it didn't hold up for me, personally.
There are things about it I liked, but the day after I watched it, I was like, do I like that? Like, there's a couple of jokes that take the mick out of there being no logic to the story. Like, there's this great little joke that I laughed myself solid at when, like, the bad guys are chasing the good guys, and, like, it's done in map format. But then the map, like, kind of like the old Indiana Jones movies where, like, kind of they run across the country in this little dotted line. But then the dotted line's there... In person. And there's a joke about that. And also, like, there's a massive plot hole where, like, the bad guy overtakes the good guys, and then they kind of went, yeah, this is a plot hole. They literally say that.
Yeah, they just look at the map, don't they? And they're like, I don't know.
I like that kind of humour. I liked it in things like the Muppets movie and other kind of Family Guy and stuff like that, where they take the mick out of plot holes. But I've never seen it before in a Disney movie. So like
it becomes quite a recurring motif for this era.
Okay, it just struck me as odd, and I think that's kind of what you mean, where you like it the first time, but the second time you're like...
I think it's got a few good jokes, but I just think as an overall film it doesn't hold up. Let's talk about a character that I like. You probably like them too, which is Kronk, voiced by Patrick Warburton.
Yeah. Can we talk about Yzma first?
We can talk about Yzma first.
We'll circle back to
absolutely
Kronk.
fine.
Yzma is the villain. Stylistically and visually, I like her. I like her design. I like how her little eyelashes are like spiders, and she's kind of almost like a praying mantis. She's very like insect.
Yeah.
She harkens back to like them trying to like take this withered but dangerous looking older female that kind of fueled the villains of the best Disneys.
She's very Cruella de Vil looking, like.
Yeah, and like at the same, like they kept that comedy character but still dangerous, and I like that.
She is actually on a list of like the funniest Disney villains, up there with Hades. I say funniest as in like they're played for comedy, so it's like Hades, Prince John, Captain Hook, and her.
Yeah, but unlike Prince John and Captain Hook, there's more to them than the jokes.
Yeah.
I guess my thing with Yzma, and this maybe not a bad thing, but she doesn't really have an evil plan. So the reason she's the villain is that she tries to kill off the Emperor, but because the film establishes the Emperor as kind of a bad person that needs to learn to be good, it's kind of almost like, well, yeah, actually, murder's bad.
There's no proof that she would run that place any worse than he is doing.
Other than the fact she looks evil.
I mean, at the beginning, it's like the thing where the peasant comes to her for help, and then she's like, oh, well, you should have thought about that before you became a peasant. But then at the same time, Cusco's like, I'm going to tear down a whole village because I want a new house.
Yeah. So they're kind of in it together. So it's a little bit like bad guy versus bad guy. And I think that takes a little bit of sting out of it. I think it would have been taken 10 seconds for like there to be a scene just after the funeral where Yzma goes, oh, by the way, now I'm acting Empress. I'm going to do this.
I'm going to have this really horrible plan.
Just stock bad guy thing. That would have been really easy to add there and would have made Yzma more of a villain. So I'm like, I love Yzma. Think she could have been.
She's not very villainous, is she?
She is, but she isn't. I think it would have been good to push that a bit more.
Yeah, so Kronk, a character we actually like.
Yeah, so like, I'm sitting here like I'm being horrible about Emperor's New Groove, and I'm like, I liked it. I liked it enough, but then part of me is like, maybe I only liked it for this one character because Patrick Warburton, his voice is just like the same reason everyone likes Patrick Warburton and anything he does. Family Guy, a series of unfortunate events. It's just he's so dry, but he's so funny with it. And like I think that works really well here. And the character, he's absolutely stupid. Kind of probably too nice to be a villain. Like when as soon as he's distracted, he's there obsessing about like this dinner he's cooked or playing with like the children characters.
His spinach puffs.
But I love it. Every time he's on screen, he's making me laugh and he's making me think Emperor's New Groove is better than it is.
Yeah, it's like he's another source of Disney taking the mick out of itself. So his like recurring motif is that whenever he's got to make a decision, he's got his angel and devil Kronk on his shoulder. And then it like you kind of assume that that's just going on in Kronk's head. And then it happens at the end and then they zoom out just to like Yzma and Cusco and Patchett just there like, who is he talking to?
Yeah, I thought that was quite clever actually. I think that joke will follow up on a rewatch. But there's moments like that I'm like, the writers are clearly clever. They clearly know
thought about it.
But then I don't know.
I mean, Kronk got his own sequel. Like he was clearly like the one character in that everyone was like, I really like Kronk because the sequel is about him.
I have a particular hatred for the Disney sequels where they make your favourite secondary character the main character for the sequel. And the Timon and Pumbaa thing, it's like, actually the joy of Timon and Pumbaa were they to the side. Pumbaa, sorry. The joy of Kronk was that he was to the side, and if he's the main character, I feel like, yeah.
This one did spawn a lot of stuff though, so as much as we're here like, it had the sequel, it got Kronk's New Groove, and it got a TV show. Like, it was one of those late 90s, early noughties ones, like Hercules, Little Mermaid, I know that's in late 80s, but that got its own TV show. I'm trying to think what else. Tarzan had its own TV show, and Emperor's New Groove got its own TV show as well, as did Lilo and Stitch.
Yeah, I think it's one of the... I'm unsure how I feel about it, which is making this review rather tricky.
I don't dislike it.
I think Emperor's New Groove is a little bit like Dinosaur. There's a gamble that slightly didn't work. But then again, maybe it did work because Dinosaur, we're there like, well, that gamble didn't
And
work.
it came out the same year as Dinosaur.
Yeah, like we're here saying Dinosaur didn't work as a gamble, but it did because it made money. And I think Emperor's New Groove, I'm here like, well, they kind of gambled by making the main character a villain and
Yeah,
But,
so what's interesting is that it came out the same year as Dinosaur, which I didn't realise. I thought it was the year after. But that kind of makes more sense, where it's like, oh, we'll do Dinosaur this year, but we'll release a film that is like a classic Disney animation the same year, so that if Dinosaur just doesn't work, we've got this other film that it's like, oh yeah, well, we released this Disney film at the same time.
A little bit like Fox and the Hound: The Dark Age, where it's like only just Dark Age. Like, I feel like Emperor's New Groove was like almost Renaissance.
It was, which is what my fun fact is about. It was supposed to be, well, I don't know if it was, but it went into production in Renaissance era.
Yeah. Let's just
I'll do my fun fact. So the fun fact kind of explains a lot of the issues that we have with this film. Like, I very much feel that this is like a half-finished film.
Yeah.
And this all makes sense. So essentially it is a half-finished film because it was originally called Kingdom of the Sun, and it was going to be directed by the guy who directed The Lion King.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a whole different story. It was still Incan, but it was going to be an Incan Prince and the Pauper, and you had David Spade, who voices Cusco, as one of the main characters. I can't remember his name, Manco, I think. And then Owen Wilson was going to be in it as Patcher. And basically, Patcher wasn't going to be the lovable older peasant guy, voiced by John Goodman. He was going to be a peasant that looked like the Emperor.
Oh, so it's like a case of mistaken identity.
Yeah. And they were going to end up switching places after the Emperor was turned into a llama.
Oh.
But he was originally a non-talking llama. And Yzma was a lot more villainous than... She was like a sorceress in the first one.
Yeah.
And it got 50% through production. And went to a test audience, and people just didn't like it. And then the directors had a falling out, and they split up and started making their own separate films. There was worries that it wouldn't make its production schedule, so it had to be released in the summer of 2000 because they'd already signed marketing details with Coca-Cola and McDonald's, which I remember the Happy Meal toys for this. I still have them somewhere. They couldn't push it back. The Lion King director wanted to make Kingdom of the Sun, but asked for it to be pushed back. At which point Disney was like, no, we'll just go with this other guy's half-done film.
It's kind of almost like we talked about with Aladdin, how they were asked to redo the whole thing in 8 days, and how I almost went, that's why Aladdin's so good, because there was some kind of quality control. This is the flip side of that. Clearly it was like, this film isn't good enough, change it, but because they didn't have enough time to change it, I honestly believe the story they have is the better film. But maybe they didn't finesse it enough. So
Sting was really heavily involved in the production of this, the singer.
Oh, okay. I was thinking the character could Sting.
And he wrote 7 songs for the film.
Yeah.
For Kingdom of the Sun, so it's supposed to be a musical. They cut all but one, which was the first song, which is My Funny Friend, which is sang by Tom Jones instead of Sting, because ironically they wanted a younger voice and they went for Tom Jones, who is 11 years older than Sting.
Oh, I don't know.
It was just the whole production of this film was a mess.
Right, ratings?
I neither like nor dislike this film, so I'm going to give it a 5.
Right, I'm still stuck. Now what you said, I feel a little bit more sympathetic for the film. And part of me is if I watched it a second time, maybe without my review head on, I would like it more.
But you didn't know that, so I don't think that should factor into your opinion.
A 4 then.
Okay.
I was going to go up to a 5, but I'll stick to my guns and go 4. But I like Crunk, and
It's not a bad film. It's just not a good film.
I laughed a lot. I think Disney could do better.
Yeah.
On that note.
Yeah. Have a magical rest of your day.
Ciao.